Good morning, good afternoon, good evening, and thanks for joining in from wherever you are. This is part one of the communications competency. It's going to be in 10-part series, just looking at different key skills that are important when it comes to communication. And as we go through these, I would request you not to have the traditional mindset in terms of communication. This is slightly different because we'll be looking at some competencies that when we combine, we are able to say that you're actually effective in communicating. So the first competency that you're going to look at is on emotional intelligence. And emotional intelligence basically is about your emotions. How well do you know yourself? How well do you manage interactions with other people? And how does that affect your communication? So basically, that is what you're going to focus on today. And just give me a minute. I'll be able to share my slides with you. So basically what you're going to be looking at is you're going to look at what communication is, what emotional intelligence is, and how does the emotional intelligence affect your communication. So to start us off, when we talk about communication, what comes into mind? Basically, you can look at the figure that we have there. It's a common figure that we have where you have your message, you share it out. There's a receiver, somebody you're talking to or somebody you're writing a document to. They receive it, they go through it, they give you feedback. You're able now to see whether you actually communicated or not. So as we go through these, just think at the back of your mind. When you talk about communication, we are talking about your ability to articulate your thoughts. Because you can have a thought, but how able are you to communicate that thought in a manner that the other party, the recipient, is able to understand it? How do you express your ideas effectively? Whether you're doing it orally, whether you're writing it, how is your visual? How is your nonverbal communication skill? These are things that are affected by the noise. When it comes to communication, we talk about the environment, the noise. And in this context, that's what we want to look at in terms of the emotions. How well do you know yourself? How well have you packaged yourself to be able to communicate effectively? Then the other key thing we want to look at is listening. Many of us actually listen with an intention of answering, but we want to focus more on active listening. Listening with everything within your body. Listening with an aim of gaining understanding, because this helps us to be able to communicate more effectively. Then lastly, when it comes to communication, you want to be able to see how can you enhance your ability to deliver information, whether it is in person or in writing. And nowadays we talk a lot on social media. Then how do you effectively package yourself within the social media space so that you're a brand in terms of communication? When people see your communique, they know what it is that they're expecting to hear from you. So basically, communication. Now we want to look at emotional intelligence. What does emotional intelligence mean? Basically, what you're looking at is your ability to understand, your ability to use, and your ability to manage your emotions in a positive way. The key thing here is in a positive way. Because some of us here, we might be able to understand, use, and manage, but we do it in a negative way. And that actually can increase stress, can affect our communication, and generally just affect our relations with other people. So the key thing is your ability to understand, your ability to use, and your ability to manage your emotions in a positive way so that you enhance how you communicate with other people. You are able, how you respond to a situation is actually your choice. So what is it that you can do to be able to ensure that if there is anything coming your way that is a potential conflict, you are able to diffuse it before it explodes? That is emotional intelligence. Then the other key thing in emotional intelligence is about building strong relationships. If you are able to communicate effectively, if you are able to understand emotions, if you're able to understand other people's emotions, if you are able to listen, actively listen, then you'll anticipate some things and you'll be able now to know how to effectively respond. And in that effective response, then you build stronger relations. You are able to enhance your working environment and you'll be able now to be more comfortable with whatever it is that you do. Then lastly, in terms of emotional intelligence, just look at how you connect your feelings, how you turn your intention into action. Because at times we get so scared. What would I say? But if you just looked at the choice of words, if you just looked at how your body language is, then you might find that whatever it is that you intended to do, you can actually easily turn it into an action. You can actually connect to your feelings to be able to pass a message. There are some messages that people need to understand, and at times when it comes from the heart, then you are able to bring your emotions into that particular message, and you are able to get your message through. So those are some of the things that you want to look at and see how emotional intelligence can actually help us to better relate with other people, build stronger relationships, and be able to make informed decisions. So why is emotional intelligence important? Basically, just doing a comparison. People with high emotional intelligence make better decisions and solve problems. And this, as you've seen from the intro, it's because you are able to anticipate the other party. You are able to understand your own emotions. You are able to know how to use your emotions to your advantage. And you are able to know how to manage the other person's emotions. Then somebody with high emotional intelligence also is able to keep cool under pressure. Because you see, it's about your response. It's not about the other person. As we go through this, always know it's about you. You control your emotions. You control your environment. So if somebody comes to you with all the energy, negative energy and all, if you have emotional intelligence, high emotional intelligence, then you'll be able to know how to manage the emotions so that you don't get sucked into that, and you'll be able to keep cool under pressure. A matter of resolving conflict, again, it's just an issue of understanding both the verbals and the non-verbals. Why is this person communicating this? What is the context within which they're coming to me with? And having that will be able to help you better interact with people who might have different understanding from you, who might have different agendas, because those are some of the areas where conflict can come in. So you'll be able to anticipate and see how best to deal with that. Then having greater empathy. When you understand people, when you understand probably what it is that they are going through, then even the way you communicate with them will be totally different. You'll communicate with them within the context with which they're operating from, and that is empathy. Then, of course, people with high emotional intelligence, they're able to listen, they're able to reflect, and they're able to respond to constructive criticism. Constructive criticism is very important because many of us, we don't like being given feedback, especially if it's negative. But once you have an understanding of your emotions and you know how to use and manage them, then whatever feedback you're given, especially if it's meant to help you, you'll be able to pick it in a positive way, listen to what the person giving you feedback is talking about, and to be able to reflect on it and see, this is what I need to do to be able to change. Now, the opposite in terms of people with low emotional intelligence, people tend to play victim. You want sympathy, and the key thing with emotional intelligence is you want empathy, not sympathy. So people who tend to play victims actually tend to exhibit low emotional intelligence because they want to use the emotions in a negative way. Because remember, when you talked about the intro on emotional intelligence, we said you must use your emotions in a positive way. So playing victim and avoiding to take responsibilities for your errors, you're actually using and managing your emotions negatively. Then they also have passive or aggressive communication styles. When somebody doesn't want to communicate with you or they're just quiet, it could be their nature, yes, but there are things that call for somebody to give you feedback. But many a times when you critically analyze the situation, then you might find that people with passive or aggressive communication styles might actually have low emotional intelligence. The passive ones don't know how to manage their emotions well in a manner that they can actually channel what it is that they want to communicate effectively, while the aggressive ones want to use force. They want to come to you with all that they have. So they also do not know how to effectively manage their emotions. People who refuse to work as a team. You are given work, you have something to do as a team, but people don't just want to relate. People don't want to give to play their role in that particular team. They might have a laissez-faire attitude towards what it is that you're doing. So these are some of the things that exhibit low emotional intelligence. And then persons who are overly critical, you do something, they will never give you any positive feedback. They will always look for that tiny thing and focus on it. So when you meet such people in your line of work, in whatever it is that you do on a day-to-day basis, just appreciate who they are and understand it's an issue of low emotional intelligence. And as we go through this, please see how best, if say, for example, some of the areas we've discussed on low intelligence you exhibit, that see how you can actually turn it around to the positive side, to somebody who has a higher emotional intelligence. So when you look at emotional intelligence, it actually has 4 quadrants. And the 4 quadrants are basically 2 that relate, 2 on the left-hand side that relate to the self, and then 2 on the right hand that relate to others. So when it comes to the self, the first thing is you want to recognize, who am I? Emotional intelligence starts with you as an individual. Because if you don't know who you are, then how are you going to deal with other people? So when it comes to self-awareness, which is the first quadrant of emotional intelligence, it is about your ability to recognize and understand your moods, as well as your emotions and what drives you. This is very important, because if you do not know the motive behind whatever it is that you're doing, then how you interact with other people, or the results that you're aiming to get, are actually not going to be in line with what you initially thought. So it is important to have an understanding of who you are. And this, if once we are done with this, we'll actually share a link where now you can get a handbook that has more details in terms of probably some questions that you can ask yourself, or a tool. I like using the Johari window, which I've shared in our in the link that I'll give you later, so that you are able to understand what is it that drives you. What is it that makes you react in certain ways? Because when you have a better understanding of yourself, then you'll be able to relate better with other people. So self-awareness is critical. Take time. And this is the foundation of emotional intelligence. So take your time and to get to know who you are as a person, and be honest with yourself. Because at times we tend to want to give ourselves some cosmetic feedback. That will not help. If you really want to improve your emotional intelligence when it comes to communication and when it comes to interacting with people, then get down to it and have an understanding of who you are as a person, what your emotions are, and what is it that drives you. And in total, how does this affect people? Because when you do that, then you're able to recognize who you are as an individual. And as you do that, the social awareness is also very critical, because this is also about recognition, but this is now recognizing other people in society. Because remember, no man is an island. You interact with other people. So when it comes to social awareness, this is now where you go deeper into understanding the emotional makeup of other people. What is it that triggers them? If you have a friend, what is it that triggers their emotions? Because you know your friend, so probably you know that if I do this is how they're going to respond, this is how they're going to react. That is social awareness. You recognize that this person is going to respond in a certain manner towards this particular trigger. Then that helps you to know how best to interact with that person. In an office situation, if you're interacting with your bosses, what makes your boss tick? What makes your team members tick? You need to have that understanding so that you know how to interact with people. Remember, we talked about people with high IQ and others have low IQ. If you're interacting with a person of high IQ, how do you best interact with them? If you're interacting with a person who has low IQ, then how do you lower in terms of your expectations, in terms of how you interact with them, so that you get what it is that you want to get out of that situation? Now, if we look at like our alumni, some of us have been away from each other for a long time. Maybe it's 20, 30 years. And here we are, bam, we are together. There are certain expectations. But the key thing is we need to understand this time that we've been away from each other, what has happened to so-and-so? Maybe we used to be classmates, but now life has happened. So people are interacting with you with different backgrounds. Their context is slightly different. You might assume that this person, I knew them this way, but right now I'm trying to interact with them at the level that I used to interact with them in school, and it's not working. Yeah, it will not work because their environment changed for that particular time frame that you're away from each other, and that has affected how they respond to people. So we need to have that awareness so that we are able to now see how best do we interact with other people. Now, once we have self-awareness and we have social awareness, we know who we are and we have a better understanding of the people we are interacting with. Then now it comes to the management part. What is it that I need to do? So for yourself as an individual, you need to work on your ability to control and redirect disruptive impulses and moods. So if you're one person who just flares, who will go on when somebody wrongs, you just want to yap and come with all the abusive words, then you need to know that. And now that has come to your conscious mind, because at times we behave in a manner that we don't think much about. That is our subconscious. But once you have self-awareness, then it comes to your conscious mind. Then now once it's in your conscious mind, then the onus is on you to be able to manage that. How do you do that? You should have the ability. So anytime you want to take a step, anytime you want to communicate, you are very aware, consciously aware of what it is to expect, because you know who you are. You know that if somebody does this, like for example, for me, very small things actually get me off. I'm not perturbed with big things, but very tiny things, like probably I like my work desk being very organized. So probably there's a place I put my pens, there's a place I put my things I need to work on. So if somebody came in and just messed that up a bit, it will totally get me off. But you see now with the self-awareness, I have an appreciation that not everybody wants their things in place the way they had put. Some people would come and just move your things around on the desk, and they're doing it subconsciously. You can't blame them. The key thing is you are in control of what it is that you do as you respond to other people. So now I have learned that if somebody comes to my desk and is moving things around, I'll not focus on that because that distracts the communication we are having. I will try to just blur that out for me. And this has come about because of self-awareness. So I'm actually working on managing, not letting the small things that really trigger emotional responses happen to me. So for you, ask yourself a question. What is it that actually triggers the emotions for you? What is it that makes you just go and start working on that? Because that's part of self-management. So think before you act. And this is something that you have to be deliberate about. This is something that you have to be consciously aware so that you are able now to move from point A to point B. Because remember, many of the things that we do, many of the reactions that we have are actually subconscious. And things that are subconscious, you don't think about, like breathing. We don't think about breathing because it's a subconscious act. So similarly, for some of the triggers for our emotions, there are things that we don't think about. But now, having gone through this particular session, what I'm requesting you is to have that awareness, the conscious awareness, and make deliberate effort to identify the things that trigger you, the things that make you respond in a way that is not supposed to be, the things that make interacting with other people become a challenge. Then lastly, when it comes to other people, how do you manage those relationships? And here, basically, having understood other people, what is it that triggers them? Like now, when you talk about an alumni, you haven't interacted with people for a while. So there's the teething problems that will come. Then how do you manage and build those relationships? Probably you have to understand what is the motivation for everybody. When we have these alumni, what is it that somebody is coming to get out of this? What is it that they are bringing on the table? Then how do we tap into that to be able now to make them feel more comfortable, feel more at home? Once we have that common ground, then you start working around that and start building relationships around that. Like, for example, sisters for sisters. Some of us are here because we want to build our personal capacity. We want to improve our personal capacity. Probably want to feel more at home with the people we went to school with. Then that is our common ground. So how do we start working around that in a way that eventually we'll be able now to meet the goal of our chapter? So as we go through this emotional intelligence, it's more about you as an individual and how you interact with other people. Because the more you interact with other people in a positive way, then the closer they come to you. The more you interact, you understand your emotions, then even your communication, the choice of words is positive, is effective, and you are able now to bring people closer to you. So that is just a snapshot of what emotional intelligence is all about. Because when you look at this quadrant, actually it's a training that can take a whole week. But I just wanted to have it in summary so that you have an appreciation of that. And if you feel that you need more information on this, just get in touch with me. My contact is at the end of the training. Get in touch with me and I'll be able to share more information on this. Now, as you go about doing this, just take some time and reflect on the following questions. We've talked about the quadrant, we talked about the left side, which focuses on you, the right side that focuses on other people. Now, when it comes to self-awareness, just ask yourself, what am I feeling? And remember, we said, be honest with yourself. What am I feeling right now? For example, what am I feeling? How did these feelings arise? And you see, when you take, because these are put as reflection time, you might not necessarily do this during the training, but given this is a recording, please pause it at this particular slide. Pause it. Take your time and go through these questions. Be honest with yourself. If you want to ask other people for their feedback, people that you trust will give you honest feedback, then go ahead and do that. Because once you get feedback about who you are, what is it that causes some triggers? Sorry, what are some of the triggers and how is it that you respond to other people? Then you'll be in a better position to have awareness of who you are. So get to know, how did these feelings arise? What is it that brought you to that level? For example, when you look at the issue of stress, if you know what's the symptoms of stress for you, what is it that triggers that? What are the things that you've been feeling over time? Because stress doesn't just happen in pap. It's something that builds over time. Then ask yourself, I'm feeling this way. It's an indicator that I'm stressed out. Then what is it that has been happening to my life in the past few days, in the past few weeks, that has gotten me to this point? Because when you do that, then you're becoming aware of who you are. Then you become even more aware of your emotions and you'll know how to respond to other people. Because there are instances where people are stressed out and they act out. So you realize that the person acting out is not the real you, but it's because of these underlying issues that you haven't dealt with. So find a way of dealing with that. Then, of course, what information do they carry? When I'm stressed out and I reflect and see these are the things that are stressing me out, do I need to work on them? Have I worked on them? And if I've worked on them, have I worked on them conclusively? Then when it comes to social awareness, why is it that this person is feeling the way they're feeling? How did these feelings arise? If somebody has a negative attitude towards you, is it something that started today? I don't think so. And here, I just allow me to talk about some, it's quite sad that some of the ladies of excellence, some of the ladies we went to school with, actually have a lot of negative energy about some relations they had in school. And these are things that happened 20, 30 years ago, and somebody is still carrying that. So just ask yourself, why is this person still having these feelings? What is it that you can do at your level to help this person to be able to understand and appreciate that this is something that happened? You can't change your past, but you can change your future. And if you're somebody who probably is going through that, when it comes to the self-awareness, these are things that you need to look for a way to work on, because you can't carry that burden for all these years. Just let it go. Let it go. I know I might say this and some might feel offended. I'm sorry for that, but the truth is just let it go, because some of us are carrying huge burdens, negative emotions from our interactions in school. That happened a long time ago. We were so immature. Many of us were immature. Now we have grown up, we have experienced life. How do we change that? Then once we start doing that, the healing starts happening. And when the healing happens, then we become even better in terms of our communication. Then the other key thing is the actions that we take. Now, when it comes to self-management, remember self-management is about you. how you are able to, what are the things you need to do to be able to deal with those emotions so that you're able to respond in a positive way. So this is how I'm feeling. Now, when it comes to self-management, you want to ask yourself, how do I want to feel? If I'm always feeling bitterness when I hear the name of my former school, for heaven's sake, what is it that I need to do to start having some, maybe neutral? Let me not be overly ambitious. Maybe just a neutral feeling of what it is that needs to happen so that I start moving from neutral to positive. And what is it that I need to do in order that I feel that way? Was there any teacher who wronged me? Was there any student who wronged me? Do I need to forgive them so that I become free of this burden that I'm carrying? Then when activities of the alumni are called upon, I'm able to respond in a positive way, because at times we don't respond that way because of what we are carrying, the burden that we are carrying. Then, of course, the last part when it comes to relationship management, reflect on how do you want others to feel. In as much as I'm feeling this way, when I relate to other people, how do I want them to feel? How do I want to make other alumni ladies feel? How do I want to make them feel like being part of this alumni is actually important? And this will be seen by the actions I take. If I'm talking to people, the kind of words that I choose to use. Listening, actively listening to be able now to understand where the other party is coming from and how best can I work on the common goal that we have to be able now to build a relationship with each other. Then finally, what do you need to do in order for the other party to feel that way? So these are questions that you need to take time. Pause the video. Just pause it and go through this. Be honest with yourself and see from this particular point, is there a new foundation that you need to build when it comes to interacting like from an alumni context? So once you're done with that, then we'll move on. What are some of the competencies that we want to look at? Because remember, we are saying we need to improve our communication skills, and we can only improve in communicating when we know who we are. So when it comes to self-awareness, there are personal competencies that you need to work on. And the first one is the knowledge of the self. I think that I've talked a lot about it. You are the key pillar in this particular module. Because the more you understand yourself, the more you have an appreciation of who you are, then the better you relate with other people. So have accurate self-assessment of who you are. And when you do that, the level of confidence actually improves. Because when I know who I am, when I know what makes me tick, I'll not be perturbed by what people say. So my level of self-confidence actually goes up. When I know all this, then I'm emotionally aware of who I am as an individual and how I best deal with other people. Then when it comes to managing other people, so self-management, the personal competencies that I want to look at is the issue of how I deal with disruptive emotions. How do I keep my impulses in check? Because at times, truth be told, as I mentioned, these are things that we do subconsciously. They've been built over time. So in as much as we are being consciously aware, there would be incidences where you go back. From a Christian perspective, I think they used to call it backsliding. Yes, backsliding. So how do I ensure that I keep my impulses in check so that I do not backslide? How do I ensure that I'm acting in alignment with my values? And at this point, I want just to ask you a question. Do you have a value system? When you look at companies, they have vision, mission, and core values. You as an individual, do you have the same? I like doing that because just like a company, you as an individual, you're also a company on yourself. Do you have that to act as your true north, to be able to guide you in the decisions that you make? When you do, then you'll find that all the time in terms of managing yourself, you want to act in alignment with your values, because the values are your compass. They point you to how you want to deal with other people. So when it comes to managing your emotions, then you want to align to the value system. And if you don't have this in place, please take time and just write for yourself a personal mission statement. What core values do you want to live by? The other key competency is handling change flexibly. Change is the main constant in life because every day things keep changing. And if we are not aware and we do not appreciate that, then we'll keep on getting stressed out. So when you handle change flexibly, then you are able to manage. Say, for example, I deal with this manager and I'm comfortable with them, but tomorrow a new manager comes. My attitude will affect how we interact. And my attitude is about my emotions. So if I'm able to handle that change effectively, then whoever I'm working with will not matter, because I'm aware of who I am and I know how to manage my emotions to be able to communicate and interact with other people effectively. Then, of course, pursuing your goals and opportunities despite obstacles and setbacks. And these, if you are somebody who always sets goals and goes for them, in fact, the common thing where people set annual goals, yearly goals, many of us don't even pursue them. By February, we've forgotten. But when it comes to self-management, what we are saying is you need to enhance your ability to set goals, pursue them. When you see opportunities, grab those opportunities, because opportunities are many. And along the way, appreciate that there'll be obstacles and setbacks. But what is key is how do you pick yourself when you fall down to be able to maintain your focus on the goal that you have set. Then when it comes to social awareness, this is now dealing with other people. The social competencies you're looking at is your ability to pick up a mood in the room. When, say, for example, we are having a meeting, when you enter the room, what vibes do you get? Then how do you respond to those vibes? Because remember, what you're in control with is how you respond. So if I get into a room and the energies are low, do I lower my energies, or am I the kind of person who will want to lift up people's emotions, the vibes in the room? So that is part of social awareness, a competency that you can build on. Caring what others are going through. Like during this COVID-19 period, how often do we call each other just to see how somebody is faring? Because if we say we are an alumni, for example, the key thing, we are talking about sisterhood. What would sisters do? We'd call upon each other. How often are we calling each other just to see how people are doing? There are people who've lost jobs. There are people who've been at home for more than a year without jobs, and they have families to take care. What is it that we are doing? And at times it's not about money. At times it's just giving that listening ear, giving a shoulder for somebody to know that so-and-so actually cares. When I want to talk about my issues, I can talk to so-and-so. And those are some of the things you're talking about, the common ground, and starting to build around it. Then the other key thing is hearing what the other person is really saying. Because at times people say things, but there's something in between that is actually the core message. So if you are socially aware, a competency that you must enhance is hearing the gray areas. What is this? What is it that this person is actually saying? Because once you are able to read in between the lines, then you'll know how to respond to this particular person. Then finally, when it comes to relationship management, the competencies you want to build is getting along with others. Remember, in life, we keep meeting different people. And in this particular scenario, probably I have to present my personality A, I have to present my personality B, I have to present my personality C. So how do you get along with others? Or are you the kind of person that would keep away from other people because you are conservative, you don't want to interact with other people, you don't want to know what is going on? So as a social competence on relation management, you have to know how to get along with other people. And here probably the issue of just building rapport, small talk, getting to understand where somebody is coming from, then will help you in terms of getting along. Another key competence is handling conflict. How do you handle conflict? And it's best to understand, how do you create a win-win scenario? What is the cause? What was the trigger? Because when you do that, then you'll be able now to manage that conflict well. Clearly expressing ideas and information. This is strictly on communication. Your choice of words, the tone that you use, the articulation. How well do you do it to make the other party comfortable? Then, of course, using empathy to manage interactions. When understanding somebody's situation and putting yourself in their shoe and seeing how is it that they would feel if you were in that particular position. What is it that they would want? And that is what you give to them to be able to enhance the strong relationships that we talked about. Now, these are other competencies, and these I will not talk about it, but this is more for your information, so that if you want to enhance the emotional intelligence related competency, then this is the framework. So you can look at what we haven't talked about and go deeper into it, or if you want more information on this, just drop us an email and we'll share more details of that. So what are some of the strategies to improve your self-awareness? The first one is pay attention to how you are feeling. Very important, because we need to appreciate that emotions actually influence how you respond, whether you like it or not. And emotions are subconscious, unless you are consciously aware of it. So we need to be able to pay attention to how we are feeling. Secondly, take stock of your emotional strengths and weaknesses. How well do you communicate with others? Are you the kind of person who looks at the choice of words that you make, or you just speak what comes to you? Do you find yourself experiencing some of these strong emotions, anger, impatience, annoyance? Like for me, I'm very impatient. When I want things done, I want them to flow in a certain way. So when I become impatient, then the communication is affected, because now emotions come in. But I have learned with time, and I'm dealing with that. So when I feel I'm getting to the impatience part, then I have to take a step back and just reflect. What is it that I am not seeing from the other party? What do I need to do to be able to bring the other party to my level, or to bring myself to their level, so that the communication can continue happening? And remember that at times people might irritate you. And in the anger, we might say things, we might do things that actually we regret later. So always remember, never make a decision in a rush. Whatever you are feeling in that particular strong emotion, it's a temporary feeling. So if you want to improve your self-awareness, when you feel that you're getting to that very strong emotion, and most of the times it could be a negative emotion, remember it is negative. And this is where you are told, count back from 10 to 1, or take deep breaths, because that helps you to calm down. It helps you to better look at the situation and see, I can actually improve my interaction. I can improve my choice of words by doing ABCD. So just taking that momentarily back step from that situation, whether it's counting 1 up to 10, whether it is just taking deep breaths, it actually helps you to gain more focus on what it is that is happening. Then the other thing is to find techniques to release workplace stress, because stress can actually be a pain in the, So it is important to have strategies to deal with your stress. And one of the things you are told is exercise, because when you exercise, you're actually building your immunity, you're improving on the health of your body. So it helps you to work out on your stress. Another key thing, keep cool. Just accept you can't control everything. What you can control, go ahead and control. And that is how you respond to situations, the kind of words that you use to effectively communicate. But beyond that, there's nothing much you can do. So don't get yourself into that space where things are just running out of control because you did not maintain your cool. Just maintain your cool. Don't add fuel to the fire. Take a back step, then come back when things are okay. Think before making decisions. Don't be in a rush. Give yourself time. Consider all the possibilities. In fact, I like using a mind map. Just draw, this is the problem I'm facing right now. Draw a circle. This is the problem I'm facing. Then how distributaries, what can I do? Alternative A is this, alternative B is this, alternative C is this. So think before you make a decision, and that will help you a lot in terms of how you interact, in terms of how you communicate with others. When it comes to social awareness, listen to what others have to say. And when we say listen here, we are saying actively listen. Show attention. Ask questions to be able, probe, to be able to have an understanding. Where you need to give feedback, give feedback. By the way, it's very annoying. This is one of the things that really gets me so mad. It's very annoying. And I think in social media, they call it being blue-ticked. When you communicate with somebody, they read what you have said, and they can't even acknowledge. Very, very annoying. So what is it that you can do to be able now to listen to what others are saying? Is it that the person doesn't want to listen to what you're saying? Is it that you're disturbing them? Or is it that is just their nature? So it's important to have that understanding and know that when I communicate with so-and-so, they never respond, but they actually got the message. When I communicate to so-and-so, they did. Like in our chapter, we all know the frustrations about communication. People don't say anything. So even for planning purposes, it becomes quite a challenge. So at the end of the day, you're wondering, is it that what we are doing is not in line with what the members want to achieve, or what is it? Because you are actively listening, and what you are hearing is silence. So what does silence mean? So as we move along, as we get more aware about this, in social awareness, it's important to actively listen. Then the other key thing is pay attention to nonverbal communication. Somebody could be telling you this, but their body language is totally different. Their tone is totally different. Somebody says, I'm happy, but the facial expression is sad, the body language, they're just, stormed. So you're like, no, this person is not happy. So pay attention to nonverbal communication. Then hone your persuasion skills. Persuasion is just your ability to influence. And at times it's just by the words that you choose to use. It's just by how well you understand the other person, actively listening. If I come to you and I appreciate your context, I listen to you and I ask you questions, give you feedback, then chances of me having a better relationship with you because you feel listened to is higher. Next, avoid office drama. Always beware where there's potential conflict. Like when it comes to roles and responsibilities in the workplace, just be aware. Where there's cross-cutting in terms of roles and responsibilities, be very wary on how you go about it. Sit down with the other party and talk about it so that you're able to see how do we do this work without creating conflict between us. Listen to what the other person is saying. Then also remember, when it comes to improving relationships, it's about perception. One says it's a 6, the other one says it's a 9. You are both right. It is just how you perceive things. So always remember to see things from the other person's perspective. It can actually change your perspective. So pay attention to how you respond to others. Let them share their ideas. Because if you're talking about perception, the more you understand what the other person is thinking about, the better it is to interact with them. Acknowledge their input. Even if you disagree, remember the perceptions are different. We are working from different contexts. So how you perceive something or how you see something could be totally different from how I see it. Agree to disagree, but listen to what the other person is saying. Let them know that whatever it is that they're sharing is actually important. And that's how now you start building strong relationships. Now, what are the focal areas when it comes to emotional intelligence? One of the key focal areas when it comes to self-awareness, we talked about it, knowledge of thyself, accurate self-assessment, self-confidence, emotional awareness. That we have talked about. Now, when it comes to self-regulation, have emotional self-control. When you feel there is a trigger coming on, learn how to control yourself. The other key area is on self-regulation is integrity. And this ties in very closely with the issue of values. Act in alignment with your value system. You'll always be on the right path and you'll never have conflict within yourself, because the worst conflict you can have is the internal conflict. Adaptability. How easy are you to change, to adapt to change? Today this is happening. Are you going with the flow Tomorrow this is happening. Are you going with the flow? And in as much as we are talking about adaptability, you also have to remember your core values. So yes, be adaptable, but always remain aligned to your values. Innovation. I'm one believer in innovation, because innovation is just continuously improving yourself. When it comes to motivation, do you have that achievement drive? Do you have, you want something and you go for it? Do you have commitment? You want to see something to the close. This is what I wanted and this is what I'm sticking with. Initiative. Do you come up with ideas and say, this is what we need to do and this is how we need to go about it? Are you an optimist? You see the positive side of things. And then learning orientation, very key, because you have to continuously learn new things to be able to improve, to be able to keep yourself motivated. So those are competencies that are important when it comes to emotional intelligence that you can actually grow over time. Now, when it comes to relationship competencies, empathy, and empathy is basically just understanding others. Being of service. When we talk about service-oriented leadership, service leadership, do you look at what other people need so that you are able to provide it for them? Organizational acumen, just understanding the workplace environment. How do you navigate that? How do you play organizational politics without getting sucked into it? Because whether we like it or not, you need to know how to play that to be able to get some of your things moving. Then appreciation for diversity. And diversity comes in many forms. It could be culture, it could be race, it could be just thought processes. Because the way I think might not be the same way you think. So how do we go about that? Then social skills, communication, which we are dealing with, developing others. And developing others basically is about, sorry, I seem to have some background noise, but I'll try to be a bit loud. So developing others is about helping others to grow. Can you coach somebody? Can you mentor somebody to be able to get to the level that they actually aspire to be? Then the other key thing is collaboration and cooperation. And I am a believer in cooperation, not competing. Because when we collaborate, when we cooperate, then we bring our resources together and we channel it to achieving what it is we want to achieve. Managing conflict, I think that we've talked about. Building influence, this we've talked about. How you deal with other people, how you build rapport, how you listen to people. It actually helps in terms of building influence. Bonds, similar to the issue of influence. Catalyzing change. Are you a change agent? When things need to change, are you on the forefront? Do you bring in your initiative? Do you bring in your commitment? Do you bring in your optimism to be able to catalyze that change? And then inspirational leadership. And this goes to the issue of service orientation, understanding others, building and developing others. How do you do that? So these are areas you can look at and give yourself a challenge. Every day, what is it that you want to do to tick off this list so that you become emotionally intelligent, so that you enhance your emotional intelligence to enhance your relationships, to build better relationships, better and actually stronger relationships with the people that you work with. And here again are some reflection questions. So at this point, you can also pause the video and just take time and go through this. Reflect on when you use different communication styles. Which ones are you comfortable with? Which ones are naturally gravitating towards you? And what is it that you want other people to know about your communication style? Because there are people naturally when they talk, you feel like they're giving commands, but that is their nature. So when you become aware, then you slightly tone down so that it doesn't come out like you're giving commands. Because when you do that, then your team members probably don't want to deal with you. So you need to be aware of your communication style. Then also identify what are the characteristics of effective communication and how can you model these characteristics. Just take time and think about it. For you to say that somebody has effectively communicated to you, what is it you're looking for? Then can you model something around that? Then describe your style of communication and interacting with others. So again, here I call for your honesty. Just take time and do this. Because remember, this is about you. When you work on yourself, then the other parts will fall in place. These are in case you go for an interview or something, and you are asked on communication, rate your communication skills on a scale of 1 to 10, what would be your answer? And you're asked, give an example from your past work experience that demonstrates the number you selected. So be aware about this, so that when you say that communication competency is actually a key competency for you in your resume, you know what you're talking about. And then also just look at a time that it was critical for you in terms of effective communication, and how you went about it, and what were the results that you got. And finally, in terms of how did communication improve a situation? Like right now, when you look at the issue of BBI, how can communication actually help in terms of the different perceptions that people have? Because I'm a believer that if effective communication is put in play, then the perceptions probably might change. We might not have the pull and pull that we are having. So what would actually help when it comes to communication? How can you use communication to improve a situation? And with that, I come to the end of the discussion. And basically, that is what our contact information is. So if you want more information, just write us an email. You can also visit our website under virtual training. You can get more information on this particular program, or you can give me a call just to see what is going on. And with that, I come to the end of the training today. I hope it was of help to you. And I just want to request you, please take time, go through the reflective questions, be honest with yourself, and see how the emotional intelligence part can actually help you to become an effective communicator, to become a better communicator on what it is that you choose to do, to improve the relationships that you have with other people. So thank you so much for tuning in, and watch out for the next one, where we are going to talk about cohesion and clarity and how that affects communication. So thank you very much.